Welcome to Accomplished Minds. Accomplished Minds is about finding and learning from innovators and creators of all kinds in all human endeavors, whether it's technology, business, philanthropy, social entrepreneurship, art, or just how to live a life worth living. Today I'm speaking with Mr. Selwyn Cambridge, founder and managing director of Ethnic Vision, Inc., a brand development and marketing firm out of Barbados. He has truly acquired a wealth of information on the individual markets in the Caribbean region from Cuba right down to Guyana through his involvement with multiple regional brands and communication campaigns. Selwyn, thank you so much for joining us here today on Accomplished Minds.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, what got you started in this as an entrepreneur?
Oh, well, as an entrepreneur, I think I probably always had the entrepreneurial spirit and blood coursing through my veins because ever since I can remember, that's all I've ever wanted to be. So I think it was just a natural state of progression for me to choose the path of entrepreneurship.
Why did you decide to become an entrepreneur rather than working a 9 to 5 for one of the bigger Caribbean corporations?
Well, I did. I did for a number of years, maybe probably about 7 or 10 years. I did. I worked for several ad agencies and marketing companies, and always had that itch, that this was not it for me. And I eventually decided to make, as they say, that proverbial plunge, and decided to go it on my own. I recognized the need in the marketplace and decided that I can certainly do this better, and also that there was certainly a better way to get what we were doing done. And I thought that I had the answer, and so I decided to go it on my own and develop the solution for some of the problems that I recognized.
And how long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been on my own for I think February of this year will be 12 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
And how has it been going business wise, and have you dealt with any challenges along the way?
I think I don't think there's any entrepreneur that will tell you that they've never had any challenges being an entrepreneur. I think my path has not been any different. It's been quite an interesting experience, a very challenging when starting out. But I think that all of that has led to where I am now, and learning from those experiences have only made me stronger and a lot better to cope with the difficulties that I know I will encounter going forward. But yes, I've had my share of challenges, and some of my business partners did not stick it through with me because of those challenges, and I stuck with it, and I'm here now 12 years later.
So, could you just, to delve a little more deeper, could you give us an example of one of those challenges? Because some of us think that, when you hear you are a business owner, it's all bright lights, my
Yeah.
own time, I could do what I want.
I think one of the first myths about entrepreneurship, I believe, is the fact that people tend to think it's the answer to an easier life, in terms of, well, I don't want to be taking direction or instructions from a boss anymore. I want to live on my own time. I want to do my own thing. And from the time you decide to become an entrepreneur, and you decide to go the path of becoming a business owner, your life completely changes. Your time is no longer your own. It becomes that of the business. And quite contrary to what you believe, you have less time and more challenges to deal with. So for me, some of those challenges as any entrepreneur was certainly starting out with a company that was seriously undercapitalized. So we had a lot of early financial difficulties that we encountered, and having the knowledge and I believe tenacity to deal with death and how you deal with debt, and how you will be able to get out of it and have the confidence to know that you'll get out of it and do better. And I believe that in those early stages, moving from a paycheck to paycheck and trying to understand how you're going to manage this month's bills, and how you're going to deal with the outstanding receivables. Those are all natural challenges. I say to people that entrepreneurship is really about 3 P's. It's about process, it's about perseverance, and it's about passion. And those, if you've got those 3 P's together, I think any good idea can succeed. What I have found is that most entrepreneurs, you'll find there are probably 2 types. Mm-hmm. Is an entrepreneur by design, and the other is an entrepreneur by default. Mm-hmm. And the one that's an entrepreneur by design is one that has been able to manage and cope with the fears of being an entrepreneur, and the fact that you will encounter some very scary situations. The ones that have become entrepreneurs by default are the ones that have been forced into entrepreneurship because they've lost a job. They've had to fall back on something that they wanted to do, but they or prefer to be employed by someone else, but they've decided that, in order for me to survive, I've got to do something. So they've become entrepreneurs by default. And I think that, it's good to have a passion for something, but understand passion needs to rise above fear. And entrepreneurship is all about being able to control your fear.
Yeah, and manage it at the same time.
Yeah.
So do you think that do you think that the Caribbean, as an entrepreneur living in the Caribbean, do we have some unique challenges?
I'm not sure. Here's the thing. I think probably the only unique challenge that the entrepreneur has in the Caribbean, the Caribbean entrepreneur has, is probably not as much access to resources that an entrepreneur within the US, the UK, but in terms of ability, in terms of opportunity to succeed, I don't think we lack that. I actually think we have an advantage on the innovation scope. Simply because within the Caribbean, it's the only place in the world that actually a microcosm of the rest of the global community. We have all these races that come together to make up the Caribbean. We have Black Indian, we have Chinese, we have European, and that is the genesis really of a cultural mix that leads to innovation. Once you've got that ability to, I think you coming from the Caribbean can fully appreciate the fact that it's the only place that you understand and appreciate that you're not a minority.
Oh, that is so true.
And it has a strong impact on how you see the world around you. When you leave the Caribbean, you go into a place where you suddenly become a minority. It plays on you, and it plays on your ability to think beyond what is possible. For us in the Caribbean, struggle is a natural part of life. So we just innovate. We find ways around challenges. And I think that's the advantage that we have as Caribbean entrepreneurs, because we're forced to actually do a lot with a little. And so we're constantly innovating to do it. We find creative ways to finance things. We find creative ways to solve problems.
So do you think we could be better? Do you think we could be leaders? Because I am not seeing the Caribbean taking charge as a group, for example, in nanotechnology or health system, in doing research. That is why I want to see the Caribbean get better and better. The reason why I'm saying that, other than music, entertainment, or sports, which seem to be a major driver for wealth creation among our youth,
Yeah.
where can I see opportunities for the young entrepreneurs coming up? The sustainable energy, nanotech, breakthroughs in water and agriculture. That is what I want to see the Caribbean take charge of.
That's an interesting observation, an interesting comment. I think part of what I've always been saying within the Caribbean is that we've got to be able to play to our strength, and our strengths are in the creative industries. That's where our strength is, simply because that's what we're good at, and that's what we've been able to nurture for a very long time. It, however, does not say that we're incapable of succeeding in the sciences, and new technology. I think there's a new crop of entrepreneurs that are coming up within the Caribbean that are starting to delve more deeply into the use of technology as an alternative to business ideas and business development. And what I've noticed is that there's some individuals that are doing some really amazing things with the technology. However, again, what you find is that a lot of them are then forced to leave the Caribbean
That is the problem.
and for further development. And oftentimes that talent leaves the Caribbean and doesn't come back.
Yeah.
And it's not that they're incapable of doing it, it's there are no institutions within the Caribbean drives that growth.
How can we change that though, Selwyn? What can we do? What do you think? Government? Is it the people? Private sector?
Get some lashes for saying this, but I believe that our Caribbean governments are behind the ball on this one, because the reality is that a lot of our Caribbean governments are still trying to push dying industries. So, for a very long time, the Caribbean has been an agricultural industry where we've relied heavily on, sugarcane, bananas, agriculture. And a lot of the development and the research has gone into agriculture and the development of agricultural industries. Now, that is fine. But the reality is, and I was at a conference once when I heard a minister, former minister for trade out of Jamaica, said that he started to take the creative industries seriously when he realized that one reggae artist made the equivalent of what the entire Jamaica banana industry made in a year. And when you start to recognize the disparity in the ability of the creative industries or services industries to do what governments within the region have been trying to have these dying industries do for their economies for a very, very long time, you start to see where the missing gaps are. There's not a lot of resources being placed behind innovation. There's not a lot of resources being placed behind the development of institutions that will drive innovation in science and technology. These are industries that are still in the early stages of development within the Caribbean. But fortunately, because of the internet, because of technology, there are youth that are taking hold of what's on the internet and just driving their own growth organically.
Yeah.
And then making the transition to these bigger countries and exploring the possibilities. And then, an entrepreneur is an entrepreneur first. So wherever the opportunity is, he or she will go and explore it and develop it.
I like how you mentioned that because my other question was I was a blog I was reading the other day that some Caribbean graphic artists were discussing how the internet had impacted their business because a logo design, say from India or Pakistan, is relatively inexpensive.
Right.
So they were complaining that they could not make a living as a graphic artist. And one of them wrote that the Barbadian government should set a minimum price for logos and other design and other services. So they want to ensure that the Caribbean people could have a fair living. So,
That,
I like the idea that you find that people, entrepreneurs first, that people are embracing the opportunity the internet is giving us. It's
yeah.
breaking down the limit of geography. Or do we still have that closed minded thinking protectively? Because I think the internet has eliminated all that.
I agree. The internet has really created a global community out of a world that's been separated by borders and landmass. But the truth is that um, look, one of the reasons I'm still in the Caribbean and I still do in the Caribbean is because I consider myself a Caribbean man. I love the Caribbean. Always do anything for the Caribbean to ensure that it develops and it achieves its true potential, because I believe there's an enormous amount of unrealized potential dormant within the Caribbean. And if we can just tap those resources and just give birth to all of these fantastic ideas that I know are resident within the Caribbean, we will really begin to see some fantastic things coming out of the Caribbean. However, I do fundamentally believe that because of our history, we've been able to inculcate a protectionist society and a mindset. And that is primarily because we've received so much support from European countries in terms of preferential treatment on prices for sugar and bananas, and it's almost become a mindset where we expect to have these preferential treatments. So I'm not surprised that you would hear someone saying that there should be a minimum price point on a service. I think it's actually ludicrous. I believe that in order for you to succeed and survive, you've got to be able to be competitive, and not just be competitive locally, but be competitive on an international scale. That's your competition. That's the market you're playing in. And once it's a service, then you can probably deliver it over the internet, which means that you now are not competing with, to use your example, you're not competing with graphic designers in Barbados or Jamaica. You're competing with graphic designers in Europe, in Canada, in Indonesia, in China, wherever they are. And you've got to be able to have something that's compelling enough that someone would want to choose you, not solely based on a price, but based on your ability to be creative and to be innovative.
Yeah. We say that so much. You say there's so much potential, and I agree with you on every point. But my desire is, how do we awaken that? How do we start a movement? It's beginning, because with people like yourself, how do we make it become more and more? How do we increase it?
Well, first and foremost, it has to. I fundamentally believe that it has to begin in the schools, because we've created an educational system that produces employees rather than self-aware, self-reliant individuals that want to be able to become employers. So when you go to school, your parents tell you, I hope you get good grades and you graduate with a fantastic degree to get a fantastic job.
Yeah.
But the truth is, wealth creation comes not that way. In order for you to really truly achieve wealth creation, is that you have to become a driver of your own destiny. You've got to be able to be a creator, and entrepreneurship, I believe, is the answer. I think we are now starting to get to the position where more and more teenagers and young adults are starting to explore the possibility of entrepreneurship and starting to pursue entrepreneurship as a career path, as opposed to, having a fantastic job. But because of a school system that has really been geared to develop employees, we're suffering from a mindset, I believe, and that is a deficit in confidence. I believe that a lot of our Caribbean youth and young adults are not confident enough to believe that they can do it. And, I saw some research once that says that the US ranks, I think, 25th in the world in math, fourth in terms of confidence, or first in terms of confidence. And when you look at that, it tells an incredible story in terms of you may not have all of the talent to succeed in something, but you have this belief system that tells you that regardless of whether or not I may have all that I need to, I believe that I can do this, and I can get it done by surrounding myself with people who have what I don't have, and we'll achieve it together.
Correct.
And it's just something that needs to come back to the region, I believe. And the fact that if we can only start to realize our potential through developing a much more confident mindset, and that, I believe, also has to do a lot with having positive role models where other business executives, other entrepreneurs that would have achieved some measure of success decide that it is their responsibility to ensure that they pass the baton on, or they help someone else to believe in their idea or their dream. Because I always say it makes no sense for a business that is in the business of running a company to succeed. It makes no sense for them to have businesses around them that are faltering. Because if you're able to help more businesses succeed, you, by extension, will succeed. Because a thriving business community allows everyone to succeed.
Yeah. Yes, and the society as a whole will flourish and grow and develop.
Yep, that's right.
So, from a practical standpoint, what has been the single most important thing for you in achieving what you have?
I think that the recognition that, one, I can do anything that I put my mind to if I just believe it. That's the first thing. I believe that inculcating a very strong sense of awareness and confidence has really helped me. And the second thing is going against the common notion of competition and more embracing the controversial idea of collaboration. Because we in the Caribbean have this thing about trust, and the fact that we don't easily trust each other, so we more are prepared to compete with each other as opposed to find ways to collaborate with each other. And I believe a lot of my success, and I don't think that I've succeeded as yet. I'm still on the path of achieving that success that I really want for myself. And I think that a lot of what I've been able to achieve so far has come through, I think, my desire, my sincere desire to find ways to collaborate with as many people as possible. And a lot of individuals or other companies that might have perceived me as competition, but I found ways to collaborate instead.
If you'd like to see more, subscribe to accomplishminds.com.